Hello and welcome to episode 3 of David versus Goliath, Adventures of a Pro Se Litigant. David is myself, George, and Goliath is IBM, and I am pursuing a lawsuit against them without counsel, so that's the Pro Se Litigant part. The first two episodes covered sort of an overview. Episode 2 went into a lot of detail of what my complaint is. It's a discrimination complaint under a statute known as ERISA, and I went through a lot of the nitty-gritty details of that at that time. These are my two main lessons for someone considering doing a lawsuit by themselves. Build a team, you're not alone, and really look at the next step versus trying to think of the whole totality. It's a pretty long and complex process. Review of the timeline. I'm currently waiting for IBM's response by January the 10th. And let's just get back on. There we go. And I'd like to now introduce today's topics. I call it Acronym Soup, same-day service at the EEOC, and I have a special guest at the end. I had kind of a guest at the end of episode 2 where I read an interaction I'd had with ChatGPT, which I thought was kind of interesting. So today we have another guest as well. So in the area of what I'm going to call the acronym soup, and you've been hearing some of these already, and I want to just clarify and make sure we define them and excuse me, get a common understanding. The particular benefit that I'm having trouble with is called healthcare reimbursement arrangement. I used to think it was called healthcare reimbursement account, since it's an evolution from something that was originally called future health account. Future health account was offered to IBMers at a time when they did a pension plan change. That was in the 90s, I guess. A lot of corporations did that, went from what was called defined benefit to defined contribution and the 401ks and all that. But one thing to sweeten it was they said, well, we're going to create this fund on the side, the future health account. We'll contribute to it. It'll grow interest. And when you retire and are facing, medical expenses in your later ages, it's a place where you can go and draw for the stuff that you don't have coverage for. So for example, your eyeglasses, or is there a drug that's very expensive, or some medication or something like that. So FHA used to be you'd go on your the site that had your 401k. It was the same company managing that, just another tab. Look at that. And then at the end of upon retirement, at the end of working and reaching Medicare age, you went and now you had an HRA, and we pursued that. These are other phrases that you hear a lot in the area of discrimination and employment. Civil Rights Act, I guess that goes back to the 60s. ADEA, Age Discrimination in Employment Act. I spelt employment incorrectly there, I apologize. EPA, Equal Pay Act. ADA, Americans with Disability Act. And the reason I'm bringing up these acts and these statutes or whatever is if I'm going to pursue a formal complaint and I don't have a lawyer doing it for me, I got to figure out under what statute I'm going to file the complaint. And so those were candidates from looking at this sort of topic back when I thought I was going to be fired or let go or something like that. And then American Civil Liberties Union, you hear about a lot that. You hear quite a bit of them. I know they have lawyers. EEOC, Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. So that's another one that seems to get involved a lot when there's discrimination. I wasn't too sure what their role was until I got to the next set of acronyms. And these were new to me. I'd never heard these before. ERISA came in the letters I got back from IBM's plan administrator, Fidelity Insurance, that said what they are doing is operating properly under this act, ERISA. And if I had any issues after the final rejection, which was the end of August, I could basically lay a claim against this act. That made me a little uncomfortable because I didn't even know what it was, so I went and downloaded it, and it's 1,000 pages. It's huge, and I didn't feel really comfortable with the area that Fidelity was pointing me in that. However, what I did find, I think I Googled ERISA and discrimination, because basically that feeling I had was, it's like when I was trained, had some management training about harassment. How do you know when someone's being harassed? When they feel they're harassed, that's harassment. How do I know when I'm being discriminated against? Well, I guess I'm feeling discriminated against. I'm feeling something was done wrong, and I've expressed that in episode 2. And so I'm going to call it discrimination and see if it fits, and it does in all the research that I did and the exhibits that I've submitted with the claim. Now, that's all great. What do I do next? And I discovered somewhere in that language on Google that there was another agency called EBSA. EBSA was sort of an agency for the public to basically have questions or issues if they're ERISA. Again, it's a big act, so it's kind of like calling legal aid or something like that. So anyways, I got on with them and I said I wanted to file a charge or an issue of discrimination against IBM under ERISA. That was an unusual request. That didn't seem to be what they normally got. And the lady went off the phone to talk to her supervisor for a while. And after she talked to her supervisor, they actually went further for more, and they talked to the EEOC. And they came back, sorry, I'll get to that in a minute. And so they came back and they said, we talked to the EEOC, and what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to talk to them first and file a charge against IBM, a discrimination charge. And I did find that before I got to the EEOC, I did find it was online in Google somewhere that, yes, you have to file a charge with the EEOC within 6 months of the act of discrimination. So that was the thing now that I had to do. So okay, how do I do that? Well, now we're getting into the day I went there incident. Online, they have a portal where you can register the charge, and really quickly it comes back with a charge number. It's just like you got a parking ticket, right? Instant number. So I've charged IBM, at the start, and then they said I have to have an appointment for an interview. So on their website, I tried to get the appointment calendar come up. It wouldn't come up. There's some kind of application error. So, they did have a helpline. I called that. I managed to get someone who was really right involved with, and they said, oh, we know about that problem. And let me just fix that for your ID. And I got in. So I'm in the calendar. No open slots. I didn't let the guy go. I said, there's no open slots for like 2-3 months. I got to get in there quickly. He said, that's another problem we have. And so he said, here's what you do is just show up because they have to take walk-ins. I said, really? And I sort of believe that because, the IRS, you have to make an appointment and there are no walk-ins. But Social Security takes walk-ins and appointments. So I said, okay. So this was a Tuesday that I'm talking to him. Wednesday's bowling day. My bowling doesn't finish till 2. I look it up. The EEOC is open till 3. So I'm going to pack up all my stuff for the case, the files, load them in my car, go straight from bowling. I get there by 2:30. Hopefully within half an hour, I will get an appointment somewhere in the future. That was my goal. I go in. It's a nice enough place, small office, nobody in the little lobby area, nice lady behind the glass. I tell her what I'm there for, and I said I have a charge number. And I'm trying to set up an appointment. She asks for the numbers. I write it down on a piece of paper, which I did. I handed it to her. Go and sit down. Wait maybe 5 minutes. She comes out and says, okay, they're ready to see you. I said, what? Yeah, they're ready to interview you. So I go down to a little room. And, it's a Zoom call. I'm on camera. The lady that's talking to me is audio only. And she asked me to start explaining it. And, I'm holding up, my files. I've got this summary plan description. I got this letter. I sent this letter. I sent that letter, blah, blah, blah. So it looks like I've got, a lot to back up what I said. She asked me a few questions. She's typing it up. Next thing I know, she says, well, would you like to review the charge and sign it? I said, what do you mean? I said, yeah, it's already entered and go back on the portal. So I went on the portal and, I did that on a laptop back home, and now I'm doing it on my phone. Do I even remember the password? Do I want to look that goofy? But I get in, I look at it, I review it, I go, oh, that's amazing. Like, she captured everything I said in a couple of net paragraphs. She was actually listening. I asked for some minor edits to the language of those paragraphs. She did those, resubmitted it, said, please review it again. And there's a button there that said, sign and submit. So I did. Let me tell you, the feeling of that, I felt like I was walking on air coming out of there. I mean, I felt like a grand jury indictment. It's like, I got him. Now, indictments are not, convictions, they're, allegations, and, but they accepted my charge. Again, you have to persuade a grand jury. I had to persuade the EEOC that this was a valid charge to allow me to proceed. Now, what is the proceed? So, they do some, investigations on their own, but she kept saying that more than likely I was going to get an RTS letter, but I was walking on air. I wasn't even listening to what that was. So elated for about 3-4 days, and then comes the email that says basically we will not proceed further. That's their choice, but they're not making a determination about whether the charge is accurate or not. That's open, and what they do say is I now have 90 days to sue. This is your RTS, right to sue letter. So that's how I got where we are, and we're in the pursuit now. So I thought it was a very positive experience at the EEOC. Everything after that got harder. I'm going to switch my setup here a bit for the special guest. Going off the headset. The laptop microphone, because the special guest I have is NPR episode yesterday, All Things Considered. I'm going to put the link to it in the description, but I think it's so good, I actually want to play it for you as a closing to this. So it's a 3-minute radio show, All Things Considered, and it just came out yesterday, January the 3rd. There it is there. Older Americans say they feel trapped in Medicare Advantage plans. Now, I just want to give a shout out to my former co-worker who let me know about this. Again, talk about building my team. He must have heard it, and it resonated with something that we talked about, and he let me know about it immediately. So thank you very much. You know who you are, so let's try and start it.
You may have heard a lot of advertising about Medicare Advantage plans.
2024 Medicare Advantage plans are now available, so everyone on Medicare can call to see if a Medicare Advantage...
These Medicare Advantage plans are private insurance that Americans 65 and older can opt for instead of traditional Medicare. Lots of Americans are signing up. It is an open enrollment period from now through March. But as Sarah Jane Tribble with our partner KFF Health News reports, some people regret enrolling in the program and then have trouble getting out.
Back in 2016, when Richard Timmons first signed up for Medicare, he went to a free informational seminar with an insurance agent.
Basically, he really promoted Medicare Advantage. He just said, well, look, it's less expensive. It's broader in coverage.
For Timmons, it made economic sense to sign up for Medicare Advantage instead of traditional Medicare. And that worked out great for a while. Then he found a small bump on the back of his right ear.
I have a family history of melanoma, so I was kind of tuned into that, thinking about that.
But it took him a long time to see the right specialist in his Medicare Advantage network, and getting the paperwork in order was confusing.
It started to grow. Starting to become rather painful.
By the time Timmons finally saw an oncologist, the lesion had grown to the size of a dime. His right earlobe needed to be removed. He thinks getting care using traditional Medicare would have been faster and easier. And David Myers at Brown University School of Public Health says he's probably right.
You can see any provider you want. There are many less sort of restrictions on care. You get a lot more freedom with traditional Medicare.
Timmons wishes he could switch, but there's a catch.
Would I go back to traditional Medicare if it was not cost prohibitive? Absolutely.
Traditional Medicare premiums average about $170 a month. And while enrollees on Medicare Advantage plans still pay that premium, the monthly cost can be more affordable. That's because plan enrollees often don't have to pay for extra prescription coverage. They also don't have to buy supplemental insurance, usually called Medigap. That supplemental insurance is needed because, unlike Medicare Advantage plans, traditional Medicare doesn't cap out-of-pocket cost. The thing is, Timmons might not be able to get a Medigap policy anymore. Here's David Lipschutz, Associate Director of the Center for Medicare Advocacy.
Medigap is one of the few types of insurance that can exclude you based upon pre-existing conditions unless you enroll during certain designated times.
That designated time is primarily when you first sign up for Medicare. But since Timmons enrolled in a Medicare Advantage plan instead of traditional Medicare, and he has a pre-existing condition, he could be denied Medigap or charged a lot more for it. While federal law generally prohibits insurers from denying people coverage because of pre-existing conditions, Medigap is an exception. Lipschutz again.
It's a lot easier to get and stay in a Medicare Advantage plan, but a lot harder to get out and pick up a Medigap plan, depending upon where you are.
Only 4 states require Medigap insurers to cover applicants, regardless of age or health. But Timmons lives in Washington State, which isn't one of them. He wants people to know.
You can get screwed if you're on Medicare Advantage. The advantage kind of disappears once you need them.
In the meantime, Timmons worries. There's a chance that his cancer could come back, and he'll be trapped on Medicare Advantage if it does. So he's focusing on what he can control.
I'm vegetarian, I don't drink, I don't smoke. I try to exercise as much as possible.
But he knows it might not be enough.
That was Sarah Jane Tribble with our partner, KFF Health News.